Oh, hi there! We were just about to get started. Today I'm starting a new series of videos where I talk to other trumpet players. I'll call those Trumpet Talk. Today's guest is Hans Marius Andersen, a Norwegian trumpet player based in Bergen. I had the pleasure of playing together with him in a heavy weather orchestra. He's overall an amazing person and an amazing musician, and you'll never guess at what age he started to play trumpet. Hello, and thank you so much for responding to my invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I guess for the Norwegian audience and for people who keep an eye on the jazz scene in Bergen and in Norway generally, you don't really need any introduction. But for other people who might not know you, maybe my viewers from Romania or from other places, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Okay, so I actually started as a classical musician, and I went to had classical training. But then when I was so I did all this Hummel and Haydn concertos and all of that. And maybe when I was 10 or 11 years old, I had my first experience with jazz. And I started in a small jazz band, more like a small big band actually, on the island Askøy, where I'm from, just outside Bergen. And started to do a little bit of improvising and stuff like that, and felt that was something that I could become good at. So I was doing that in addition to my classical playing for many years. And then I started in the Bergen Youth Big Band, as it's called. And continued sort of my jazz development there before I eventually started playing with other bands, like my own quartet and different kind of constellations of jazz musicians, Bergen Big Band, and I went professional playing with them and Your Radio Jazz Orchestra. So and all the way I was doing this together with my classical playing. So I was doing both, and I still do, although it's mostly jazz and commercial and that sort of playing now.
I've seen actually some of the videos with you playing classical with big orchestras, and you were pretty young in those videos. I always wanted to ask you, when did you start? But you already said.
Yeah, I think I started playing. The first time I started was I was 3 years old.
What?
I started, so I was pretty young. And then I couldn't make real sound, so I was singing in my cornet. It was then, and eventually learned to make sound, and I started in my school band when I was 5. So my father is also a trumpet player, and he was sort of the guy that got me into it. And I always thought when I was younger that I was going to be a professional musician. I never had any other thoughts on it somehow. Nice. Yeah. So it was one direction to go, and that's what I did. And everything I did was focused on that. So, yeah.
Nice. For people who might not know, you are now a Yamaha artist, yes?
Yeah.
Congratulations for that. How did that happen?
So I have been playing a lot of different gear for a really long time. Or when I started, I was playing a Bach, Stradivarius, and these kind of horns. Some Yamaha, and some didn't really have a go-to brand. And then for many years I played Monet. That was partially because I was very influenced by Wynton Marsalis. So it went well with that sound that I wanted to have at that moment. But then some years ago I sort of changed my sound ideal that's in my head. So, and then the Monet didn't quite fit to how I wanted to sound, and I tried some other gear like Shawgirl. I was trying for a bit, and then I figured I just need something that works every time I pick it up, and someone who can deliver all the horns that I play, like different kinds of trumpet and flugelhorn, cornet. I also double on saxophone, so it's a big plus that they also can deliver that. So therefore, Yamaha was a natural choice for me.
Yeah, nice. One of my instruments is Yamaha, and I like it very much.
It's solid instruments that works every time, and all of them are like consistently good. So
yeah, that's also my experience with Yamaha.
Yeah.
With Monet, what would be the difference for you in sound? How would you define the difference between the Yamaha and the Monet?
It's all a matter of preference, I think. But of course, the Monets sound bigger, I think, darker somehow. And it really was a good fit to how I wanted to sound at that time. When I changed that sound ideal, as I said, I just found it difficult to make Monet sound like the way I wanted to sound. And that doesn't mean that Monet it's great instruments. It's amazing instruments that I played for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. But it's like I wanted to paint a picture, and using Monet as the brush, that I couldn't paint the picture I wanted. And probably if I played Yamaha at that time and it was a different picture, I wouldn't be able to do that with the Yamaha, you know. Yeah. So it's really a question of just, you know, all of these like Monet and stuff. They are horns that are built to sound and be played at a very specific in a very specific way. There is a very clear ID behind them. So if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, it's
that's the best tool is the one that it does what you want to. Yeah,
and that's sort of the point, and I think that changes throughout life for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I started to listen a lot to James Morrison, for example, a couple of years ago, and that was kind of the reason why I got into Shawgirl in the first place when I played that. And that really, I don't think a horn can make you sound like anybody. You will sound like yourself anyway, but at least they can be a gateway to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And with Yamaha, it's just an all-round horn that gives me most of what I want every time. So I use this one. This is the Eric Miyashiro model.
Nice.
So I use that for like everything from lead to commercial playing and jazz gigs. I find that it gives me like a powerful upper register, but also a warm and round sound when I'm doing jazz ballads, for example. And then in the classical playing, I'm using a Chicago model that's maybe a bit more. It's a bit heavier horn, but with a more compact sound. I would say.
Mm-hmm. What was the reason when you switched from classical to jazz and you said, okay, maybe I want to try this? Was there a specific artist or a specific event that kind of led you there, or?
I don't think there was no. I think the thing was that I was doing the classical stuff, and it was always really strict frames on this is how you're going to play things. So there was sort of a barrier between me and my creativity in a way.
Yeah.
Not that you can't be creative with classical music, it's just that the frames are more strict.
It's a very different type of creativity there. It's
definitely, and it's more about in a way perfectionism also in classical music plays a bigger role than it does in jazz, where you can sort of you can play a wrong note, but that doesn't define the performance in a way.
Yeah.
So I just felt that jazz was, in addition to classical music, a way for me to express myself more freely.
Nice.
That's really what happened. So, and I was really into in the early days, or I'm still only 28, so I'm still in my relatively early days, I would say. But in the really early days, I was really into Chris Botti. If you know who he is, Chris Botti. Yeah. So I was. That's like a mixture between pop and jazz.
Pop jazz, yeah.
Yeah, pop jazz. So maybe he was a big inspiration in the beginning, actually. Yeah. And of course, Miles and all these guys. That's always there.
Let's hope that Marsalis doesn't hear that, because there was.
Yeah. But he came in I would say that Wynton Marsalis has had more to say for my musical language than maybe Miles Davis has, because for maybe 5-6 years, 90% of what I listened to was Wynton Marsalis. So I'm just trying to, listen to what he did and mimic that and trying to get something good out of it. And man, he's just a great musician. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few times, and I was sitting in with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra once. That was a really huge. Yeah, it was great meeting him, and actually playing his part in the band was.
That's you have quite an experience with a lot of music, and meeting some of the biggest names. Yeah. When I first came to Norway, for me it was a culture shock, because in Romania we have this somehow very elitist concept that violin and piano, and you do classical. And here I've seen so many brass bands and marching bands, and everybody is playing music on all the instruments. And for me, it was amazing, because now suddenly trumpet had a very different social status than I used to take as the norm.
Yeah.
And in some places like Oda, where I live now, it's more traditional. People play just more of the classical stuff, or marching music. You've been traveling around. How do you feel this Norwegian culture into brass and wind instruments influenced you? I mean, you started when you were 3, and music is trumpet is kind of a family tradition. But do you think, do you think you had an advantage in front of maybe people coming from different cultures?
I think if you think about the handcraft of playing the instrument, then probably maybe yes, in terms of technique and in terms of just exposure to the instrument, because we have a lot of great players there, and from a really early age, you have the chance to work with players that are really good. Also, it's very distinct in the Norwegian culture that many people play music as a hobby. So there's all of these bands, like here in the west where I live, it's a lot of brass bands, and in the east there's a lot of wind bands. Of course, there are mixed as well, but so I did both when I was young. We did both wind bands and brass bands. So in terms of the technical aspect of playing, I think, because I was exposed and I had great teachers, and I had stuff I needed to practice for, and there was a generally high level and always a place to go. You know, when you were in the school band, you could go to maybe the local adult band, and from there you could sort of build your band career in a way until you reach the sort of elite level. But I think in terms of musicality, I don't think there is any advantage in being here, at least in jazz. You know, maybe in classical playing marches, stuff like that, I could have other advantages. But
But
where you
definitely,
come from.
like
Yeah.
getting in contact with the instrument, because
Yeah.
in Romania we have this concept that you should not start too early with the wind and brass instruments, because you could have health problems and lungs problems. And I personally started when I was like 14 or 15.
What you said, you could have lung problems?
Yeah, from
Wow.
the pressure.
I've never heard. Actually, I had asthma when I was younger, and I actually think the playing helped. So
Yeah.
maybe it's quite upset, but very interesting to hear that opinion.
I've heard the same thing from the teacher from Ukraine. Yeah, we had that concept too there. Or what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think you can start if you want to start early. It's just a good thing, if you ask me, to like build the stamina and to begin your technical development as early as possible. But definitely to start, like you have experienced, to start in your teens is also possible. So yeah, it's never too late.
I will put a link around here to your YouTube channel. And you have your music on Spotify, your own music, like your own albums. Is there some of the projects that you are working now that you want to make people more aware of? And I'll put the links in the description of the video.
Yeah, I don't know about anything I can link to right now, but I'm just doing a lot of projects with my own band, and I also play a lot with like I just finished a big Christmas tour, and in January I played a lot with someone called Blåsemafiaen in Norway. It's like one of the probably most famous Norwegian horn sections right now. So I'm doing a lot of gigs with them, and have some upcoming gigs with Bergen Big Band. Yeah, studio sessions. Just doing what I normally do, you know, being out there and playing, and yeah.
Let's get some like quick questions.
Okay.
Top 5 albums that you have to have with you on a desert island.
Wow. Okay. Let's take it from the beginning. You know Edvard Antonsen, the Norwegian trumpet player. He's like a classical crossover. Yeah.
Okay.
He has an album called Tour de Force that I really loved when I was younger. Then we have with Marsalis. I would have his standards and ballads, most likely, and also maybe the Live from Jazz and Marciac album. So that's 3. I would have Kind of Blue, of course. And I would maybe have Blue Train, to have some saxophone there.
Because you play also saxophone.
Yeah.
Piece of gear that you cannot miss from your setup.
Trumpet. But
is there a specific mouthpiece that you are like, this is the thing?
Yeah, right now I'm using Bobby Shoe lead model for my lead playing. So mostly all of the commercial playing I do, and the lead playing, I use that one. And in the jazz playing, I use somewhat some different mouthpieces. But at least for all the gigs where I need to play high and loud, I need that mouthpiece.
If you would have a time machine and you would have the chance to get back in time and give yourself an advice when you were younger and starting to improvise, what advice would you give to yourself?
Maybe to calm down and take it more slow. When I started out, I was playing really fast, playing a lot of notes, and I sort of had to learn to play less. And I'm still working on that today, finding the good lines in playing less notes, and I think that's something everybody needs to do sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, especially in Norway, start playing in brass band, and some of the amateurs don't really start with a good technical basis. What would be the method or the thing that you would advise people to start with?
I would start with just getting a correct embouchure. There is no such thing as a correct embouchure, but at least an embouchure that gives you the best possibilities to express yourself without being an obstacle, you know? So not too much of this one, not too much of this one, not on any sides, covering the lips sort of equally. And that would give you the best like basis to build from there. And also always focus on air. Focus on how you breathe in first. That's the most important thing. And how you let the air out will sort of come of itself. You know, it will do itself if you do the correct breathing in. So those two things, focusing on embouchure and breathing, I would. It is probably my go-to two things when I instruct students on how to play, at least.
Nice. Advice for people starting improvising.
So there is different schools to this, I think, and some people are really strict about how to do it. Some people are not. I find that actually playing by ear is very, very productive, and I'm doing a lot of that when I play as well, playing by the ear, because I think it gives me a more direct route from my ideas to my sort of what comes out of the horn. But of course, sometimes I have to check the chords if there is a like a really difficult fusion thing or anything like that. But sort of being able to combine both playing on the chords and playing by the ear, or at least not playing. A solo shouldn't sound like an arpeggio or something like that. You know, it should be a musical idea and a rhythmical idea behind everything, in my opinion. And then you have other people that approach it from a wholly different side, and that's okay. It's why we sound different, and it's sort of two different angles to approach it. So.
Is there a routine that you have on a daily basis to warm up or to get yourself in shape, to keep yourself like?
I never cool down. I just play. No, I don't know. I don't really have a specific thing. I probably should be better at that. Actually, I should begin to do it. But I just when I work so much, I just play the notes that I need to do for my work. So, of course, if I feel that the sort of embouchure or something I have to work with something, I will go back and practice maybe long tones or something. If I feel I have a bad day, I will do some long tones, I will do some deep notes and stuff like that. I always, of course, begin like in a low register, just softening my muscles and stuff before I start to really dig in. But I don't have any specific advice on what to do. I think it's very individual as well. Somebody needs to warm up for an hour, and somebody just needs to play a few notes, and they're ready to go. So.
Yeah. Thank you again so much for taking my invitation, and
thank you for having me.
Well, that's all the questions I had for Hans Marius today. But if you have other questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. I will also put in the description of the video links to his YouTube channel, Spotify albums, official Yamaha artist page, and everything else. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.